Hi, welcome to the Parenting Bridge podcast. I'm Dr. Michelle Alden, a licensed professional counselor, parent coach, and family therapist. And I'm here to help you to build a bridge to your best family possible. How we maneuver through problems, like what I mean by that. And so sometimes the things that happen when we first do the program, a lot of the things that happen, like we kind of stop everything we're working on in that moment, like to get calm and to get regulated. But sometimes we just need to get through it, right? We just need to get through to get to the other side. Like we need to get through this, and maybe it's, 30 minutes that we were going to go outside and do a task, and then we're going to, we have to get, through the evening or whatever. And so it's okay to give up on some things. Like maybe they're not going to do the task exactly like you wanted, or maybe it's going to be a task where it's like they're just going to be with you and they're not actually participating, but as long as they stay by you, then you work through that obstacle. It's like, I know you don't want to do this, but you're going to be right here with me, and then we're going to go do this. So sometimes it's just kind of looking for those things, like, is everything that I'm trying to get done really, really everything that has to be done? And so, and sometimes I think that requires some flexibility on our part, where we have the schedule and we have the structure, but sometimes we also need to be flexible. I had a kid I was working with that he was kind of having a rough night, and it kind of started off because dinner was really late, and usually they do, get ready for bed right after dinner. And so since dinner was delayed, I just, asked the dad, like, would it be okay if he took his shower and got in his pajamas and had dinner in his pajamas? And the dad was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And so we did that. And then because everything was late, like their family time was delayed. And so then he started having a fit about his family time being delayed. And finally, he just kind of, it was getting really close to actual bedtime, and he was really struggling, and they wanted him to brush his teeth, but he just was kind of melted into a puddle on the floor. I said, is it okay if you just pick him up and put him in bed? He was like 7 years old. It's like, let's just go to bed. Like maybe we're just done today. And so sometimes it's just looking at those things, like what's going to happen? What's realistic about what's going to happen? And is this actually going to get done at this time? Because, it's okay to give up on maybe brushing teeth tonight, in order to get to bed at 8 instead of having a battle till 10 o'clock or whatever it was going to take. I think that takes some wisdom and some, I guess, thinking that through on your end as the parent, because, I'm really big on having that structure and that schedule, but sometimes there just has to be some give on that, how we move through the obstacles. The other thing about moving through problems is look at those times a day when you always have problems. And a lot of times we do this, as we're kind of starting the program. But if you've been doing the program and then you're like, gosh, like every evening, like it's a battle. Like I had a kid that would really be pretty good after school. And then as soon as kind of everybody got home and it was dinner time, big fits, he would stomp around, kind of cause problems. And so we just started changing the way that we did that routine and kind of adjusting some things that were happening. But it took kind of looking at, like, because instead of thinking like, oh, he's just always horrible every evening, it's like, well, what can we do in the schedule to make it better? Can we do a first and then? Can we, are we doing something that's kind of making it so that they hate dinner time, or they hate reading time, or they hate, these things? Like, how can I make this easier for them to succeed? And sometimes taking those steps back, even though your child you may feel like, gosh, aren't they able to do this by themselves? But sometimes just taking that step back, and we can move forward quicker. Sometimes it's because we, have like been right there with them, that we start micromanaging so much of it that we lose the compliance in doing it. Where it's like, this should be like, let's go take care of this, or let's go do this together. Instead, it's like we want them to do it, and we're just kind of, watching over them and pointing out like, oh, you missed this, or you didn't do this, or we should have done that. And so that can cause some problems that help us to not get through the tasks that we want to do. So one of the other questions that somebody was asking about was if I was going to talk about holiday suggestions. I'll just give you some of my suggestions for traveling and in these holiday times. So you know that like when the kids are off school or you're having family over or, these different, traveling, things like that, you're taking away some of the structure that you have. And even though everybody might be excited about it, doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is just chill with it. Sometimes kids have a lot of anxiety around things changing too, even though it might be, maybe don't like the schedule or are fighting against you on everyday things. But so just keeping in mind that during the holidays, like you want to still kind of have a plan and you want to let the kids know what's going to be happening. So I recommend this when you're on vacations, that you have a basic idea of the day, of what you're going to do that day, and that the kids know at the beginning of the day. And you may not know everything. Like if you're visiting relatives or friends or whatever, and you're at someone else's house, you might not have total control over everything that's happening. So, but you can still let them know, like, hey, this is the day that we're going to go do such and such. And I just want you to know that, that I don't know exactly what time we're going to leave, but we're going to have breakfast, and then we're going to do this, then we're going to get ready, and then we're going to do that. And today you'll have time to do these things. And just, and for some kids, I've had some families still kind of write out a basic schedule for the kids, so that they know, and some families it's just enough to tell them that. I think the one thing that it does that really, really helps is that it lets the kids know that you've got this. That just because we're on vacation or we're off schedule or we have a holiday, it's not like total chaos, because somebody still knows what the plan is. And so I think it's important for you to have a basic plan to the best you can. And you can tell your kids, hey, it might change, because if this is what all the cousins are going to want to do or whatever, but but having just kind of that basic plans helps the kids to just have that sense of safety and security, that you know what's going on, and that the adults have got it figured out. So it doesn't have to be a hard, like when they're asking or when they're wondering what we're going to do next, or can we do this next? You don't have to be harsh about it and say, the adults have got it or we're in charge, but letting them know by saying, yeah, I know it's kind of been crazy, hasn't it? Here's what we're going to do. So just kind of keeping the structure can really help, but also if you have to let go of some of that structure, at least letting the kids know that there is a plan. I also recommend too that, if you have a lot of people, like if you're visiting relatives, and have some families that if you can just get away with your kids, even if it's just, like take a break from the playing or whatever it is. And if they really need you to just like have some time with just them in the middle of it, if you have your own, this works really well with families that kind of like they're visiting people, but they have their own motel. Like maybe you just need a couple hours in the middle of what's happening and go to your place with just your kids and let them have a little bit of downtime, because your kids better than I do, but they don't do so well with a lot of excitement, just like they don't do so well with a lot of negative things either. So it can go either way. So you're not going to be able to keep them calm all the time, but you may need to just have like a break, in the evening or in the afternoons. Thanks for listening to the Parenting Bridge podcast. For more about parenting and how to get started building a bridge to better behaviors, go to the show notes and click on the link to Healthy Foundations. If you would like to leave a comment or have questions for Dr. Michelle, there's a link in the show notes to do so. Thank you.